The Information Technology Resource Center, ITRC, is a Montana State University think tank whose mission is to keep the university at the forefront of emerging information technology. They also develop multimedia products and services for educational institutions, as well as private and state enterprises. The ITRC has received a Montana Department of Transportation grant to develop interactive information kiosks to educate the public about the nation's upcoming Lewis and Clark Bicentennial. The ITRC director placed a programmer in charge of the project, and the endeavor has suffered greatly under his leadership, both in terms of kiosk development and team morale. Although the team included 3 capable, creative multimedia experts with enthusiasm for the task, the programmer imposed a highly directive leadership style on the group. He failed to delete authority, asked for the team input only when assured that his opinions would match his own, and his opinion prevailed even in creative areas that were not his expertise or strength. Given the capabilities and willingness of the team, the programmer's leadership style was highly inappropriate. The programmer's top-down, autocratic approach to management led to interpersonal conflicts, a demoralized team, substandard work, and project delays. The programmer was fired when the director overheard him engaging inappropriately with the group. Enter the aspiring servant leader. Andy, previously a manager of another media development team on campus, was brought in to replace the programmer. Having just completed an organizational management course, Andy was keen to try out his new knowledge about effective leadership. In particular, he felt the precepts of the servant leadership theory would be particularly appropriate to the situation. He knew that many behavioral scientists had identified servant leadership as being well suited to community service-oriented or educational organizations like the ITRC. The strong values system espoused by servant leadership also appealed to him, and he spent a good deal of time preparing for his new responsibilities by first examining his own belief systems and his motivations for aspiring to leadership. Andy began by calling a team meeting. He openly acknowledged the problems that existed with the project and asked for the team's help in understanding the current challenges. The team was at first silent, afraid to communicate their true thoughts, but Andy was aware of this fact. Through quiet, non-judgmental feedback, he was slowly able to encourage open communication among the group members. By allowing the group to air their grievances, Andy acknowledged them as holistic individuals and encouraged the healing process to begin. To move the project to a more positive plane and to support the growth of individuals, he concluded the meeting by asking each team member to meet with him individually so that he could learn more about their individual strengths, skills, and interests. The team was initially suspicious of this one-on-one strategy, but Andy was consistently positive and supportive with each individual. After learning their areas of expertise and thoughts on where they could best serve the project, Andy concluded each conversation by asking the team member to consider how he, the leader, might best support and serve their efforts on the project. Afterwards, the team members compared notes about their individual meetings with the new project manager and concluded that he seemed like a fair, forward-thinking leader. Andy had begun to build trust. Andy considered what he learned from each team member and called the group together the next day. In the meeting, he communicated his admiration for the team's capabilities and his philosophy that his role as leader should be to serve, support, and facilitate the team in their quest for success. His primary role and motivation was to provide the resources they needed to achieve success. He unveiled a proposal for delegating responsibility according to individual areas of expertise and asked for feedback as to whether the plan best met each individual's desires and strengths. The team proposed a couple of changes and the plan was jointly approved. The team responded positively to this first sharing of power in decision-making. Andy was careful to clarify that delegation was not an abdication of his accountability as a leader. Rather, it was a way to empower team members to make the best decisions about how to achieve their collective goals. He assured them that he would work closely with them to support their activities. In doing so, Andy fostered an atmosphere of participatory, non-hierarchical leadership and further promoted group trust. Andy concluded the meeting by communicating his emerging vision for the group's efforts. He conceptualized the key role that the information kiosks would play in the upcoming bicentennial celebrations and what future endeavors the Lewis and Clark project might lead to for the group. By communicating his foresight, he inspired the group to accept him as a servant leader and persuaded them to follow his vision. These early corrective forms began to pay off. Team morale improved, communication channels opened up, and the kiosk interface rapidly improved under delegated supported decision-making. Team members independently put in extra hours each week to move the project back on schedule. Andy's steady leadership behavior solidified the team's motivation and will to succeed. He displayed consistent honesty and integrity in all interactions with followers and expressed his appreciation of others at every appropriate opportunity. He influenced the team not by coercion, but through visible, personal example, which is considered modeling. He knew that his own demonstrated behavior would prove the best foundation for influential leadership and the best way to instill organizational values. He demonstrated his personal dedication to the project through his own deeds, thereby raising his credibility and creating a principled culture of participation. To promote the growing sense of community among the team, Andy began to host the team's weekly meetings over lunch at local cafes or on the university green in fair weather. Andy also emphasized the project's responsibilities to the larger community by holding regular testing sessions with members of the public. The team began to develop a sense of their organizational values and began to also see themselves as servants first. Andy utilized the trust capital he had built up with the group to lead them to new achievements. He proposed some cutting-edge multimedia features they could strive to incorporate into the project and initiated the process. He challenged the established mode of doing things and in doing so led the team to become innovators. This pioneering behavior involves some risks, but is also the hallmark that distinguishes managers from leaders. After 6 months, the information kiosks were completed on time and installed in various public locations along the route of Lewis and Clark's journey through present-day Montana. The project was viewed as a success and led to additional contracts with state and federal institutions. Team members went on to lead some of these projects themselves, which Andy viewed as the greatest sign of his success. By serving as a leader himself, he encouraged servant leadership in others. Now that you've heard Andy's story, talk with your group about different servant leadership traits and behaviors Andy had that allowed him to be successful. You may have noticed the 10 servant leadership characteristics that Andy displayed. First, listening. Andy heard and was receptive to what others had to say, and he acknowledged the viewpoints of his followers and validated their perspectives. Second, empathy. He sought to truly understand what his followers were thinking and feeling. Third, healing. He cared about the personal well-being of his followers. Fourth, awareness. Andy was acutely attuned and receptive to his physical, social, and political environment. Fifth, persuasion. He showed clear, persistent, and non-judgmental communication that convinced others to change. Sixth, conceptualization. He was a visionary for his organization, providing a clear sense of its goals and direction. Seventh, foresight. Andy predicted what was coming based on what was occurring in the present and what had happened in the past. Eighth, stewardship. He accepted the responsibility to carefully manage the people and organization. Ninth, commitment to the growth of people. Andy treated each follower as a unique person with intrinsic value that goes beyond his or her tangible contributions to the organization. He was committed to helping each person in the organization grow personally and professionally. 10th, building community. He fostered the development of community so his followers would feel a sense of unity and relatedness. Next, you are going to hear a description of a servant leadership behavior that Andy displayed in his position, and you are going to apply that behavior to the scenario that follows. The first behavior is conceptualizing. Conceptualizing is a servant leader's thorough understanding of the organization, its purposes, complexities, and its mission. This allows the servant leader to think through multifaceted problems, to know when something is going wrong, and to address problems creatively in accordance with the overall goals of the organization. Here's the scenario. You become principal of a building that has very little direction and purpose, suffering test scores, low academic expectations, a very old curriculum, and teachers who haven't been trained in the latest best practices. Use the servant leadership behavior, conceptualizing, to discuss with a partner what you would do to help your school. The second behavior is emotional healing. Emotional healing involves being sensitive to the personal concerns and well-being of others. It includes listening and recognizing others' problems and being willing to take the time to address them. Servant leaders make themselves available to others, stand by them, and provide them with support. Here's the scenario. You're new to the school and the last principal that led was distant and non-relational with the staff. She solely made decisions about the school and her word was final. Teachers feared her and felt very uncomfortable when she would watch them in their classrooms because they felt like she was out to get them. She would target certain teachers and criticize everything they did wrong. On top of that, you now have 6 teachers out for maternity or medical leaves. One teacher's baby has brain cancer, another teacher had a miscarriage, and the last teacher had her 5th concussion and has missed over 2 weeks of school. There have been subs in and out of your school this year, and your staff is not working as a team. Discuss with a partner how you can use the servant leadership behavior, emotional healing, to help you take care of these difficulties. The third behavior is putting followers first. Putting followers first means to demonstrate to the followers with actions and words that their interests, tasks, successes, and concerns are a priority. Here's the scenario. You have a long to-do list, including completing a school budget, recruiting and hiring a new media specialist, returning emails, dealing with student disciplinary issues, and attending a meeting. The 6th grade teachers confront you about having an issue with the science curriculum and how it doesn't align with the district's science assessment. Discuss with a partner how you can use the servant leadership behavior, putting followers first, in order to solve this problem. The fourth behavior is helping followers grow and succeed. Helping followers grow and succeed means to know the followers' professional and personal goals and help them to accomplish them. Servant leaders mentor followers and provide them with support and aid them to become self-actualized. Here's the scenario. You have a new teacher in your building. She is excited about teaching and wants to learn good teaching strategies and participate in committee activities to become part of the community. You notice that she is struggling with behavior managing and teaching writing to her 3rd grade class. This teacher stays at school late at night several nights a week. Role play with a partner. Pretend you are the principal talking to the new teacher. Use the behavior, helping followers grow and succeed, in order to help this new teacher. The last behavior we'll discuss is empowering. Empowering means to allow followers the freedom to be independent, make decisions on their own, and be self-sufficient. Servant leaders share the power by allowing followers to have control. It builds the followers' confidence and their capacities to think and act on their own because they are given the freedom to handle difficult situations in the way they feel is best. Here's the scenario. The last principal of your school was a micromanager. Everything the teachers did had to be approved by her. She also dictated the components of teachers' weekly lesson plans, expected to see a sticky note marking the page of the lesson they were on in the curriculum binder, gave them specific words and actions they had to say and do during each of their lessons, and monitored teachers during collaboration time by making them all work in the library. Teachers weren't given credit for the work they did, and the principal made it known that she was the one in charge by threatening poor evaluation scores for not meeting these expectations. Discuss with a partner how you can use the servant leadership behavior, empowering, in order to encourage your staff and change their perspectives of leadership. I hope that you have been able to learn from Andy's situation and through discussion with your peers on how to best apply servant leadership in your school.